right, good evening. How we doing? All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We thank you for your patience. I hope you got a chance to get some light bites, courtesy of Commissioner Ellis. Before we get started, I want to go ahead and introduce somebody who you all very well know, Representative Ron Reynolds. So first off, it is my honor to introduce him. He's a dedicated public servant and advocate for justice. Representative Ron Reynolds serves as state representative for House District 27, which includes part of Fort Bend County in the Houston area. He's built his career on advancing equity, protecting voting rights, and strengthening opportunities for working families across Texas. He currently serves as chair of the Texas Legislative Black Caucus and has been a consistent voice for fairness in our legal system, access to education, and economic empowerment in our communities. So please help me in joining Representative Ron Reynolds. Also, my brother in Alfred.
Well, I want to say this is a first. The first time I've gave greetings in workout attire. I guess I am really close to Commissioner Ellis. You all have seen him do this in biking shorts, so I guess this is nothing. But I want to say good evening, everyone. And I have one correction, Fred. I'm chair emeritus of the Legislative Black Caucus. I'm actually chair of the Texas HBCU Legislative Caucus. And I want to just say thank you, Commissioner Ellis, for hosting this. This is so important that we talk about voter engagement. It is so critically important as we just a little over a month ago celebrated the 60th anniversary of the signing of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And many of you know that ended effectively Jim Crow in the country, ended racial barriers like poll taxes and literacy tests that kept people who looked like me from once being able to vote and literally hold public office. And as we think about this special election for the 18th Congressional District, if it wasn't for the signing of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, there wouldn't be Barbara Jordan, who became the first African-American congresswoman in the South since Reconstruction. It was that Voting Rights Act that created that opportunity for her. So it is so important that we understand, because many of the advances that we have made because of the struggle of our forefathers whose shoulders we stand on, they're under attack right now. They're literally under attack at the state level in the legislature with voter suppression laws, at the federal level, and all over this country. And so I want to thank Tanisha, who has been a real advocate and a champion. We've worked on legislation together. And Commissioner Ellis and this precinct fought very hard against the attacks on Harris County, because there are 254 counties in this state. Harris County had more attacks on it based on many of the advances that this county made, from drive-through voting, from mobile voting, from extended voting hours. All of that was erased by the Texas legislature. So it is important to understand where we are currently and potentially where we're headed. So I just wanted to bring greetings to you all and thank you so much for being here. I want to bring up the man of the hour, my mentor. When I was when I was a student at Texas Southern University, it was the Texas Legislative Internship Program that gave me an opportunity to go to Austin on a paid stipend and with college credits that then propelled me to go to law school at Texas Tech. But it was the TLIP program that really opened my eyes to the possibilities of me becoming a public servant one day. So I want to bring up the man who really needs no introduction, the man that I think is doing so much to transform not just art, but he's done that if you look around here and look around the city. But when you think about criminal justice reform, you think about voter empowerment, civic engagement, I can't think of one person that has been at the forefront of many of those things than our own Commissioner Rodney Ellis. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Reynolds. Representative Reynolds is here to work out with me. Now, I know it's hard for y'all to believe it, but when I was his age, my body looked just like that. And God willing, I'm gonna make it look like that again. So he and I, when I tip out, I'm going to change. I did 50 minutes, Ron, on the elliptical before you got here, and I stopped to go shave because, 71 is old. And I don't want y'all looking at me because the young ones have said, old man is slowing down. You don't get after me. So I know that I may put my name on the ballot again, so I got to lose weight again. But thank you all for coming. Welcome to the John and Hazel Biggers Center. I wish that when I was a student in Texas Southern, I'd had the good sense hanging around their home to ask for art instead of asking for food. And they always had good food. I can remember he loved Nina Simone and Mahalia Jackson. And then he'd go out there in that studio and just start working, painting, and, sketches up a storm. So I thought it was appropriate, my passion for art. My art is the art of politics, in case you hadn't noticed over these 41 or 42 years. But so we named this campus after him. This is a community center. It'll hold, standing up, maybe about 190 people. We can open the doors. We've had events. It flows out. People book it. It's become a pretty popular venue. We're going to do a county library across the street. This was the Orla's old training camp. And when they left, they had to leave a little something because they walked out on that lease. So, Earl Campbell's locker room, Bum Phillips, but that room where my staff used to work had no windows. It was a nice place for training, but it wasn't too nice for working. Tanisha was joking about she used to have this event back when you were working for Anita Roadheaver or someone in that building. But so we're going to tear that down. That will be a county library. And we are hoping that we'll be able to have a 400 to 500 person auditorium. It'll be community space as well. And of course, the aquatic center over the way. This is actually, Ron's going back to the gym, this is actually Tanisha Hudspeth's event. And it was really her vision. And she's doing one in each of the precincts. So she's asked each of the commissioners to host one. So this is one we're hosting tonight. I really do want people to vote. Unlike the battles that my predecessors had to live under and wage, whether you vote for me or against me, I honestly do want you to vote. Whether you have the same position I have on the various propositions that are on the ballot or not, I really want you to vote. I really mean it. I think our democracy is preserved and is at its best when everybody has a chance to participate. And sometimes I win, sometimes I lose. Back when I was in the legislature, Representative Reynolds, I was never one of those folks who try to slip my stuff up when they were in the back room. Now, sometimes I might slip some stuff in the building if they're too stupid to read it. Well, it was there, but I would never try to slip a vote through. And we want you to be educated on everything that's on the ballot. I want to thank Tanisha and her staff. They did a great job on putting this together. Give them a round of applause. Clerk Huskett and her staff. I want to thank my team, my staff members, for all that they do. They may be out there in the hall helping people. Some of them in the room. We'll give my staff members a warm round of applause as well. Just a quick rundown, and Tanisha will go through it. This November, voters are going to decide on a range of issues, very important issues. The long-awaited and overdue special election for the 18th Congressional District. It's an embarrassment, by the way. It's the longest vacancy in the history of the United States Congress. And depends on if there is a runoff, when the runoff is set, it may set an international record. You're not just in the country, because if it waits until January, which is the rumor that it may be the case, that seat will have remained almost 800,000 people without anybody to represent it. 788,000 people in the 18th who've gone without representation for all that time. So it's important that people go and vote. We text message, we're live streaming, let everybody know. That's on the ballot. City and school board races are on the ballot. Community college trustee elections are on the ballot. Municipal utility district elections on the ballot. Local bond measures on the ballot. And 17 proposed statewide constitutional amendments are on the ballot. And trust me, they matter. Not just the names of those people, but those various items on the ballot matter. So you should make sure that people are educated, you're educated as community leaders. Do everything you can to encourage people to participate. That's why we're doing this tonight. Ron went through a lot of the thoughts that I have. It's no secret what's going on in this country, regardless of where you sit on the philosophical equation. I think it is an embarrassment. I think it's an abomination. And the best way you can let your thoughts be heard would be to vote. Obviously, there are efforts to suppress the vote because people don't want folks to vote who disagree with them. They don't have the position I have. But the best way to fight back on that is to show up in droves. So I want to thank you for being here. You just catch me in 6 months. I'm just so proud. I can't remember what the pill is that I take. It's in my wallet for blood pressure. It's an honor and a privilege to represent you all these years. But sometimes it can raise the blood pressure. And I got around about 10 pounds off, so they got me cutting the pill in half. And if I could get on down, Ron, how am I looking? This ain't bad, it's 71 now. Wait a minute. You know, look at when I'm opening it up, you know what I mean? Don't have to, I'm not holding my breath right now. But the doctor told me I got to do those push-ups, and just riding that bike won't do it. You got to trick the body. You know what I mean? I got to lift those weights. That's why I got me a young leader in here to encourage me. Tanisha always say that with these interns that I've had over the years, I got the idea for Mickey Leland. When I went to work for him at 27 years old, wet behind the ears, cocky, had my little 3 degrees, and he said, we need to have more young people like you get an opportunity like this. I called the president of Texas Southern and the president of U of H. I got 5 from each school coming to Washington. We're going to put them in other members' offices, and we're going to pay them. You raise the money, and if you can't raise the money, you're fired. You're going back to Austin, Texas, or go on to Houston. And, that's your problem. So we raised the money. We had that Mickey Leland internship program going for a long time. I kept raising the money, even when I went to the Senate for a while. Then I think I decided I raised it when Craig Washington was there. Then when Congresswoman Jackson Lee got there, I did it for 2 years, and I said, that's it, sister. You raise it. So that kind of fizzled a little bit, because the money's hard to raise. U of H has a version of it going, but we started one when I got to the Senate in 1990. First class 91. We had almost 1,000 of them now. I had one from South Africa who was staying at our home, go to Wheeler Avenue, and I called Pastor Cosby. I said, I don't know what you told him, but the boy got the Holy Ghost. You know what I mean? I thought his daddy was a Muslim. He went up there and joined that Christian church. I don't know what you said, but he joined. But I'm so proud of people like Ron who come out of that program. And I always say that my greatest hope one day, if I keep putting my name on the ballot and I get defeated, it'll be someone who has learned the process of governing. But in the meantime, I'll whip them, and they'll learn how to lose with humility and get over it. Thank you and welcome. Now, Tanisha, the live streaming, so if you walk around so we can hear you, you got to stay near this.
Okay.
Okay, so they can live stream as well. Okay. All right, thank you all.
Very good. Good evening. Let's give Commissioner Rodney Ellis another round of applause. Well, I'm going to come from around the stand because it's about as tall as I am. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Tanisha Hudspeth, your Harris County Clerk, and I'd like to say the hardest working county clerk in the state of Texas, who means business and works really hard to make sure that we are running elections well and making sure our voters are informed, prepared, and know exactly that we have their back when it comes to voting across this great county. So it is a pleasure and honor to serve. I'm not going to talk as long as Commissioner Ellis did, because this is his house. But I am so appreciative. I'm one of those Mickey Leland interns who went to Washington, D.C. in 2003 as a junior at Texas Southern University. And I served in Congressman Chet Edwards' office at the time, if anybody knows a little something about that. Came back to Houston and started working for the county clerk's office when Beverly Kaufman was the county clerk. And after 4 county clerks, this county elected me to be the first youngest African-American woman to ever serve in this role. Yes, thank you. So to give you a little history, I started as an admin assistant and 6 positions later. So this is not just a fun thing for me. This is a calling. And when it's a calling, that means it's full of purpose. And so what I'll say today is I'm not going to steal my staff's presentation. Mal is going to lead us through the presentation this evening. They're going to really talk about the things you need to know for this election. and then we'll answer questions. Our office has plenty of information about the upcoming election, as well as Commissioner Ellis' office. So thank you so much, Precinct 1, and everyone that's here tonight. If you serve as an election judge or an election worker, raise your hand. All right, I'll look around there. Let's give them a round of applause. So I always say this, elections simply do not work without election workers. Elections don't happen. Here in Harris County, it takes 12 to 15,000 individuals to run elections on election day, right? Between early voting and election day. So that means, you know, we're not just doing it one time a year. It's happening over and over again. And there's no such thing as no elections. We have elections all the time, right? They're back to back. So I want to give thanks to those folks who are training and preparing to make sure we're ahead of the game. Look, as you all know, there is so much on the ballot that's just as important as the presidential. But unfortunately, it doesn't get the attention. So our office is doing a campaign now that says, your vote matters, Harris County. Y'all will hear our voice on PSAs and commercials. And with the help of Commissioner Precinct 1 and all the rest of the commissioners who have unanimously supported me with finances to do what we need to do in this great county, because I want to show them also love, so they'll keep supporting, right? They also passed a really important resolution when I went back and forth to Austin this cycle. The Texas legislature wanted to do away with countywide voting. That meant you couldn't just go anywhere doing early voting. You would have to go back to voting in your precinct on election day. And I worked really hard with my colleagues across the state of Texas. Didn't matter if you were R or D or what you believe. What we knew is it was important for all voters to be able to vote and make it easy, accessible, and efficient. And we did that. We passed resolutions across the state of Texas. Okay, I think we should do that. And because of that, it did not last in the legislature. It died a hard death. And I like to say, you know, Harris County was at the forefront of that. And so that's what working together looks like, right? And we'll continue to do that. We didn't get all the best case scenarios out of this legislative session, but we'll talk about that throughout this meeting and the coming months. So I won't steal Mal's presentation. I'll let her come up. It is an honor of my lifetime to serve as your county clerk, and I look forward to continuing to doing this work. And thank you all for taking your Monday night to be with us. So thank you very much, and I'm going to hand it over to this young woman here that is going to lead us through this great presentation. Let's give Mal a round of applause.
Hello everyone, my name is Malcolm Spence. I'm so happy to be here and share this time with you guys and present our community meeting presentation. So we're going to go over a few things today. We're going to go over what exactly the Harris County Clerk's Office does and a quick overview. And a quick overview. We are going to go over the upcoming elections, what's on the ballot, and ways that Harris County helps to make elections accessible to all people, all eligible voters. And then ways to get involved. But from the hand raising, I think majority of us in here are already involved. Thank you guys. All right, so what does the Harris County Clerk's Office do? It's a bunch of different things. So we have personal records. Do you need a marriage certificate? You'll come to the clerk's office for that. Public records, commissioner's court, real property, probate courts, county civil courts, archives, and then my personal favorite, I think some of our personal favorites, elections. There we go. Alrighty, so in Harris County, we have about 2.7 million registered voters. That's a pretty impressive number whenever we're looking at the estimated voting age population, which is 3.5 million voters. However, we still, with the tax office and help from people just like you, can get that number up and up and up. So this is just a brief look at the voting age population versus the number of registered voters for demographic groups within Harris County. Alrighty, so important dates. October 6th has come and it has gone. That was the last day to register to vote. October 20th is the first day of early voting. So that is in exactly a week. The last day to apply for our mail ballot is going to be October 24th. What I like to remind people is this is being done via snail mail. So it is wise to not wait for the last day to turn in your application for your ballot by mail. You're going to want to try to get that in as early as possible. So if something's going on with the post office, if there's rain, whatever the case may be, you're getting to that deadline. The last day of early voting is going to be on Halloween, and then of course, Election Day will be on November 4th. That'll also be the last day to turn in your ballot by mail. And again, ballot by mails are being turned in via snail mail. We do not have anything to do with what's going on with the post office, so please, if you can, do your best to get that in as early as possible. All right, so what is on the ballot? We're going to start off with Congressional District 18. So with the passing of Mayor Turner, we know that that seat is vacant. So the CD 18 special election was approved by Governor Abbott for inclusion on the November 2025 ballot. You will only see this contest on your ballot if you are registered to vote in this congressional district. And we will be able to see this if it goes on runoff, goes to a runoff, which there's 16 candidates. So it will probably go to a runoff. We'll see that runoff in January. Alrighty, so this is a pretty long ballot. The master ballot is thick. I think a lot of you guys have it in your hands. So there are local races all throughout Harris County. So we have our 17 proposed constitutional amendments. Baytown will be having elections. Bel Air will be having elections. City of Houston will be having elections as well. There will be another special election. So we know about CD 18 special election. There will be a second special election, and that's going to fill the vacancy for city member at-large position 4. Jersey Village, Missouri City, HCC, which is now Houston City College, will also be having an election, and Aldine ISD. Fairbanks, Houston, Klein, and New Caney ISD will all be having elections. We will also have some elections for utility districts, MUDs, PUDs, UDs. There will be some freshwater supplies on there. Other MUDs, Harris County MUDs, will have elections coming up as well. So if you want to know if any of these elections are on your ballot, you can go to harrisvotes.com and look up your address-specific ballot. So what's in your hand has all of these different elections. You just got to go on Harris Votes to see what's on yours. All right, we have some more elections that are happening all throughout Harris County, and then the Woodlands Township will also be on some people's ballots. All right, so there will more than likely, right, be a December runoff. Those dates are November 13th, it's going to be the last day to register to vote. December 1st will be the first day of early voting. The last day to apply for a ballot by mail is going to be December 2nd. The last day of early voting will be December 9th. And then the last day, or the election day, will be on December 13th. That's also the last day to get in your ballot by mail. And again, I cannot stress this enough. When you are applying to vote ballot by mail, or you are voting ballot by mail, it is snail mail. Get those in as early as possible. All right, so how to vote. It is as easy as 1, 2, 3, because there are 3 different ways that you can vote. You can vote in person, of course, at a vote center. Everybody here has probably voted at a vote center, or you guys are working in vote centers. You could vote in person via curbside, or vote by mail. Of course, you will have to bring in an acceptable form of ID. There are 7 acceptable forms of ID. Driver's license is a big one, personal ID, handgun license, citizenship certificate as long as it has a photo, military ID, election ID certificate, and then your US passport. If you do not have and you cannot obtain, or if a voter does not have and they cannot obtain one of the 7 forms of ID, they can always bring a List B ID and fill out a RID, a reasonable impediment declaration. Any of these will work. A government check, your voter registration certificate, a bank statement, your birth certificate, or a utility bill will all work. Accessibility features. So in Harris County, we do our very best to make sure that voting is accessible to everybody, not just those who are able-bodied, but everybody under the sun who is eligible. So we do curbside voting. We do have voting order priority for voters with limited mobility. We do have the ATI device, which is right here, and if that's something that you're interested in learning more about, we do have them in the back to show people. And so this has Braille on it, and it allows you to use the machine if you have limited mobility in your arms or any visual impairments. And then we have virtual interpretation on demand. So curbside voting does have an update. As required by new state legislation, rules governing curbside has changed. The voter must sign an affidavit stating that they are unable to enter the vote center without causing harm to themselves or without having assistance. Now the voter of the vehicle can vote curbside as well, and there will be 2 election workers meeting the voter and the driver at their cars. Voting in person, a voter who needs language assistance should notify an election worker. They are able to get voter interpretation on demand. The wait times do vary depending on the location. The voter in need has the option to choose someone to assist them. This could be anybody that they know, as long as this person is not their employer, an agent of their employer, or an agent of their labor union. And then the person who will be assisting them will have to sign an oath. Voting by mail. In order to vote by mail, you do have to meet one of the qualifications. You have to be 65 years of age or older on election day. You have to be sick or disabled, expected to give birth 3 weeks before or after election day, or you have to be out of the county all throughout early voting and on election day, or you have to be confined in jail or have an involuntary civil commitment. So essentially, as long as you have not been convicted of a felony, if you're in jail, you can vote by mail. All right. If a voter submits their ballot by mail carrier and it is defective, they will receive a notice telling them what must be fixed. They will not receive the defective carrier. So this is an update and it's a change that people do need to be notified about. The correction must be made in person or on the Secretary of State's website. If the voter chooses to vote in person without making the correction, they must vote using a provisional ballot. If they make that correction, they will receive a notice of correction. Once they receive that notice of correction, then they'll be able to go vote in person. If you do not have that notice of correction and you decide to vote in person, then you will have to vote provisionally.
What are some of the affected things that we'll be looking for?
If like they can't like scan it through, so if like the writing is like too light, if they can't read it, if it's torn or damaged in any way, but they will let you know what the defective is. Yes.
The first paragraph is referring to the defective carrier. What is
Yes.
a carrier?
The carrier is the envelope that the application is Any other questions? Okay, let's keep it going. All right, and this is something that my entire team really likes to emphasize. When you are sending in your ballot by mail application, I've said it already twice, and I'll say it again. These applications are coming into our office and going out of our office via snail mail. So it is a lot easier to just send it one way and not have any delays, right? So what do we need to be doing? We need to make sure that we're filling out both A and B. Give us your driver's license or your ID number, as well as the last 4 digits on your social. If we cannot read or match one, we will automatically go to the second one. This helps to avoid delays. Also, just making sure that we're reading our application in its entirety. If you need an annual application, realize that you have to be 65 years of age or older, or you have to have a disability. Not just anybody can do the annual application. That can cause a delay. If there's a primary election that you're interested in, make sure that you're selecting your party. We will not send you both parties. That will cause a delay. So just making sure that we're going through everything. If it's underlined, if it's bolded, if it's outlined in red, that's screaming, hey, read me, pay attention to me, and fill me out properly. This allows us to avoid delays. Also, write clearly. It really helps. All right, let's make a plan to vote. I'm sure everybody here has a plan to vote because everybody here we've gotten halfway there already, right? We have our sample ballots in our hand. So let's close that out by going to harrisvotes.com and getting our address-specific sample ballot. Going through the ballot, making our decisions in a calm state, in a calm manner, and bringing that with us to the vote center. You can find your closest polling location. We still have countywide voting, just like Clerk Hudspeth said. So let's use that to our advantage, right? We don't need to go to the place that is here or there. We need to go to the place that's most convenient for us. If you live in this area but you work in Humble, maybe it's most convenient to go on your lunch break because there's no line there. The way to find that out is by going to harrisvotes.com. And then you can always track your mail ballot if that's the way you choose to vote. All right, this is going to be a heavy election year, and we don't want anybody to not be aware or to experience voter fatigue. So how are we going to combat that? By letting you guys know at every stage of the game what elections are coming up. So in January, we can expect a CD18 runoff. In March, we can expect our primary. In May, a primary runoff. November, a general election. And in December of 2026, a runoff election. So there will be elections pretty much all year round. We just have to make sure that we're looking up what's on the ballot and voting the best way we know how. Yes.
I have a daughter in college, so for each year she'll have to, so if she registers for 2026, will that cover all?
She won't be able to do the annual ballot because unless she has like a disability or anything. So she's just gonna have to apply for each one. But once they're open, they're always open. Like you can apply for the ballot by mail at your earliest convenience. She's gonna wanna apply. Make it a one afternoon thing. Just do it in the afternoon. Send them all out.
I know, huh?
Yes, ma'am.
December 13th election day. What election is that?
That's going to be the runoff for this November election. So this November election, it's going to have a December runoff. CD18 is having its own runoff in January. So that, I don't want to confuse anybody, so I'll say it one more time. November's elections are going to have their runoff in December. CD18, our very special election, is having a special runoff in January. Of course. All right, raise your hand again if you're an election worker. This is a good turnout. Well, for those of us who are not election workers, if you are interested in becoming an election worker, you can apply through your party. Harris Votes does not recruit Harris County does not recruit election workers. You go through your party. We step in closer to election day, kind of like emergency recruitment. But if you want to be an election worker, please apply through your parties. If you have any questions at all, we do have a election judge info email that you can always ask the questions to. And if you need this, it is outside. The flyer is outside at our table. All right, other ways to get involved. Election night is a big lift, and we are recruiting election night support staff, especially in the Channelview area. Specifically in the Channelview area, we're looking for election night support staff. These are the people that election judges see on election night. We are taking out all of the election equipment, making sure we have everything that is mandatory to bring back to a collection site, a regional collection site. In order to participate as an election night support staff, you just have to be 18 years of age or older and not in high school. You must be a United States citizen, complete a training, and that's pretty much it. So it's a cool, fun little gig, and we always need help. And this election, we need it specifically in Channelview. And if you have kids, if you have anybody who's 16 years of age or older, you can work with them hand in hand. So if we know that a parent, an aunt, a grandparent, whatever the case may be, if we know that one is an ENSS and one is a high school runner, we do our best to make sure to keep you guys together. So this is essentially the same thing, except it's for the high schoolers. Both positions are $17 an hour, starts at 5 p.m. on election night. High schoolers run until midnight, and adults, we keep you as long as we can. We try not to keep you too long, but we keep you as long as we can. All right. Thank you guys so much for sitting with me. Thank you. Please visit our website at harrisvotes.com. Again, that's where you're going to find your vote centers, your voting location, wait times, your sample ballot, your address-specific sample ballots, and most information, if not all information that we have. Follow us on social media. We have all of our information up there as well, and sometimes some funny videos. And then please join our mailing list so that you can come to our general community meetings. I do the general community meetings, and sometimes we have a good laugh, and it's great. As well as getting other information necessary. Yes? Yeah, so I think what you're asking is for me to explain what a provisional vote is. Is that correct?
Yes, and
okay.
What's going on with the Secretary of State?
I'll touch on the first part. What is a provisional vote? So a provisional vote, it just means that on our end, it shows that you cannot vote in person, whether you've already voted or you're not registered to vote, whatever the case might be. So then we give you a provisional ballot. You will vote kinda as normal, but instead of putting it through the scan, we'll come back and it'll be counted via the ballot board, which is equal parts R's and D's, and then they will go over, make sure that you are able to vote. So, for example, with the mail-in ballot, if you canceled your mail-in ballot, but you don't have that notice, or you fixed it, but you decided you wanted to vote in person, but you don't have that notice, the ballot board will do the look on the back end to see did you already vote or not, and then they will either approve or deny your ballot, but they do have to agree on it. And then I don't know if I can talk about what's going on with the Secretary of State, but I can, if you have any questions about that specifically, I know how to get answers from the people who it's appropriate for them to discuss other offices.
Because I've been hearing that they are thousands behind, so all these people are registered to vote. So moving forward is right around the corner, and so the vision of this property may be big,
Mm-hmm.
but it should not be because there are a backlog of registered those people in the system. That's what I was told. I'm in CBAT, so now you guys don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I'm not in the voter registration office, so I don't know what's going on with, I can't speak on voter registration being backed up or not. Is James still here? Can, maybe he, I don't want to put no one on the spot, but when it comes to voter registration, I think the voter registration office should take that kind of question. All right. Thank you so much. I'm really glad that I was here to give this information. Yeah.
All right, give it up again for Miss Mal Spence. I worked with Mal for almost 2 years at the elections department back when I was at the county clerk's office, and she's always a great professional and very easy to work with. So thank you again to Clerk Tanisha Husbeth as well as her team for being here today and the work that y'all put in. We're going to transition to the next part of our presentation. We are going to give a brief presentation going into a little depth about how these constitutional amendments actually end up on the ballot and the process that they get there. And then we're also going to talk about some resources that you can use to educate yourself on those constitutional amendments, because the language can be a little wonky. We want to make sure that everybody's clear and on the same page on what that ballot language actually means. So Alon is going to come up here and take us off, and I'm going to go ahead and get us switched over to the other presentation. Why don't y'all go ahead and give it up for our lovely policy advisor, Alon DeLeon. He's going to go ahead and take us from here.
All right, well again, good evening. My name is Alon DeLeon. I'm a policy advisor for Commissioner Ronnie Ellis here at Harris County Precinct 1. We are going to, towards the latter half now of our presentations, we are just going to speak a little bit more about what's actually going to be on the ballot. The clerk's office touched a little bit on it, but we just want to make sure that you have as much information as you need to be able to make informed decisions on this ballot. And so we're going to have just a couple slides. Here you have, so here, as you can see, these are the key races. There's more races. The clerk's office was able to go through every individual one, but here you have a QR code of the sample ballot. So if you pull up the sample ballot, you will see everything that will be on a ballot. Now, when you go and vote, you won't actually see everything that's on that sample ballot. You will see the races that correspond to your particular district or your particular area, region. But this is a good way for you to at least get a sense of what that ballot will look like come election day and early voting. And so we'll have that up there for a little bit longer in case people wanted to look at it. But this is an off-cycle election, and so if you look at the key races, some of these are more local elections, but they are very, very, very important. And in particular, not only are we talking about the CD18, the city of Houston, and some of the suburban and school board elections, but we're also going to be seeing constitutional amendments on this ballot. So if we can go now to the next slide. So we've all heard the term constitutional amendment, and we've all probably voted for many of them if we're lifelong voters, or we have been lifelong voters. But just to create a baseline understanding, a constitutional amendment is a formal change or addition to the state constitution that must be approved by voters after passing through the legislature. The U.S. Constitution has only been amended over a couple dozen times. The Texas one has been amended 3,500 times since it's been adopted. And this year alone, we are going to see 17 proposed amendments on the ballot. And every single proposition is going to speak to something that might, in fact, impact you and your community. And that's why we want to take the time to really walk through some of this so that come early voting election day, you are not surprised by anything that's on that ballot. And we're not going to take the time to go over every single one over these slides, but I want to just give an example of what one proposition might look like. For example, Proposition 13 is a ballot proposition that states the constitutional amendment to increase the amount of the exemption of residence homesteads from ad valorem taxation by a school district from $100,000 to $140,000. So in other words, if you are a homeowner, your primary residence, your first residence, you have a homestead exemption of over $100,000 that's free from taxation. Now, what this constitutional amendment is proposing is raising that limit of the property value that's eligible to be exempted from taxation from $100,000 to $140,000. And so in particular for school district taxes. And so there's pros and cons for why in a proposition like this, whether somebody should support this or not. So that's why in the next slide, what we want to do is first go over how is it that some of these amendments end up on the ballot in the first place? Like, why are you seeing them? How are you able to see them? Why is it that we've seen thousands of amendments over the decades, amendments to proposed amendments on the Constitution? The way that these amendments work is only the Texas legislature can propose statewide constitutional amendments. A proposed amendment must pass by a 2/3 supermajority in both the Texas House and the Senate. Once approved by both chambers, the proposed amendment goes on the ballot for a statewide election where voters decide to accept or reject it by simple majority vote. So the Texas legislature can vote to propose a change to the amendment, but it has to be approved by the voters. And the governor cannot veto amendments if approved by the voters. If a majority of voters approve, the amendment is added to the Texas Constitution, making future changes difficult because it just requires another legislative supermajority and statewide vote to, for example, rescind an amendment or to change it again. And so it's a lengthy process that it can take over a year. And this year, this past legislative session, the chambers convened and agreed to put 17 constitutional amendments for consideration by voters statewide. So in other words, it doesn't matter what district you live in, it doesn't matter what even county you live in, everybody statewide will be seeing these constitutional amendments. And so it's just important to also note that. It's also another reason why everybody should be voting. These are local elections, but these are all amendments that impact everybody, not just in Harris County, not just in Houston, Bel Air, but statewide. And for this part, I'm going to pass it over back to my colleague, Bryce.
Thank you, Alon. All right, and before I head into talking a little bit about some of the resources that we're providing for you here today, I do want to quote our Chief of Staff. This is something he said to us when I first started, and it's always stuck with me. When it comes to the world that we see around us and the circumstances that we're in right now, right, there is no such thing as unintended consequences. There is no such thing as unintended consequences. So I want y'all to remember that as things continue to change, as we continue to push forward, as we continue in this fight to protect our democracy, there is no such thing as unintended consequences. And I think that's very important to think about as you're reading through your constitutional amendments as well in your ballot language as you're deciding what you're going to vote on. So first off, I do want to say that we have, first off, I want to just give kudos to the League of Women Voters of Houston. They've done an amazing job year after year creating a nonpartisan voter guide that voters can use to make informed decisions about what's on their ballot. If you're here today, one of those voter guides was on your chair. If you didn't see one on your chair, we have extra sitting on the table out there. But what this voter guide does is gives you nonpartisan information about what you're going to see on your ballot, and it also talks about the merits for and then also the merits against some of the measures that you're going to see, especially when it comes to these constitutional amendments. Also, some of the folks that are going to be on your ballot, also some of the folks that are going to be on your ballot are listed in there as well, and if they took the survey or responded to the survey that League of Women Voters sent out, you'll get to hear directly from that person who is on the ballot on why they think you should vote for them. So I think it's a great tool, it's a great resource, and then we also have digital versions available for you as well. If you look at that, if you go ahead and scan that QR code. Another great resource is vote411.org, where you can also find information on the upcoming election. And another thing that I wanted to point out to you, I wanted to, if you can, go ahead and open your League of Women Voters voting guide. I kind of want to give you an example of some of the language that you're going to see in here. As you flip through, you'll see some information on voter ID laws in Texas. You'll also see a little information about amending the Texas Constitution. That's some information that Alon just went over as well. But I just wanted to go through some of these constitutional amendments. Do know that since I got my badge on my hip right now, and I am on taxpayer time in a county facility, I cannot speak to my own personal opinion on some of these constitutional amendments. I'm not trying to lose my job, but I do want to kind of go through some of the language here and make sure folks know what they're looking at. So first off, I actually highlighted a few. Here's my highlighted version. There it is. Okay, so go ahead and flip to page 6. And if you look at page 6, that's where the Texas Constitutional Amendments election begins. And as you can see right here, it says Proposition 1 at the top of your page, and then the explanation, arguments for and arguments against. I think this is going to be a really, really valuable tool for y'all. And what we really want y'all to do is use this time between now and early voting. Early voting starts on what day? Who can tell me? October what? There we go, October 20th. Early voting starts on October 20th and ends on October 30th, right? Wait, is it October 30th or 31st? 31st. Okay, gotcha. Thank you. So 31st. All right, so you have several days to take advantage of early voting. So before that begins, what's today's date? Today's October 14th? October 13th? Right, so you have 7 days to sit down with your League of Women Voters voter guide and go through this ballot language and figure out what you're going to vote for. Also, when you go into your ballot booth, just know you can bring your cheat sheet. You can bring a scratch sheet of paper. You can bring your sample ballot. You can mark it up. So that way, if you forgot what you're going to vote for, you have it right there on hand. The only thing you can't do is have it on your phone, because your phone has to be off when you go vote. But let's talk about Proposition 3. All right, so Proposition 3, that ballot language says the constitutional amendment requiring the denial of bail under certain circumstances to persons accused of certain offenses punishable as a felony, right? I love this guy because it gives you a more detailed explanation, right? So currently denying bail typically requires a full trial, which makes it very rare. Therefore, if a defendant has the money to post bond, they must be released even if there's evidence the person may commit future violent crimes. This proposed amendment would expand the options available to officials setting bail, judges, including the option to deny bail to ensure safety of the community. This would apply to individuals accused of murder and similar violent offenses, right? So this is a hot topic, right? This has been a huge conversation in the justice and safety community, amongst advocates, amongst activists, amongst proponents of stronger bail laws. So I really want you to take the time to review the arguments for and against. I'm a justice and safety guy, so I wanted to point that one out. Not gonna give y'all my own personal opinion unless you wanna talk off the clock. All right. Yes, and there are some corrections here. Thank you for pointing that out. I almost forgot to read the correction. So, dear voter, we want to inform you of an important correction in the printed version of the Voter's Guide. Proposition 3, Section 3, relating to the authority of courts to deny bail. The arguments against were printed incorrectly. So, the arguments against: judges currently have the discretion to set high bail amounts for individuals considered high risk, which can prevent their release. Also, denying bail to certain defendants could result in overcrowding of jails, require more taxpayer funding for additional jail staff, and then also being denied bail increases the cost for defendants and undermines the presumption of innocence. We apologize for the error and appreciate your understanding. So thank you, League of Women Voters, for doing your due diligence, making those corrections. I'm gonna read through one more, and then I'm gonna go through a little bit more information, and we'll go ahead and get y'all out of here so y'all can get home. All right, so Proposition 16, right? I think that one's important to go over since we're right now talking about voting rights. So Proposition 16, the constitutional amendment clarifying that a voter must be a United States citizen. All right, so the explanation here is that the Texas Constitution does not explicitly state that non-citizens cannot vote in state or local elections. However, to vote in state and local elections, you must be registered to vote, and to register, you must be a citizen, right? Because when you go and submit your voter registration card, you either have to put down your Texas ID or the last four of your social. Then you submit that to your voter registrar. Your voter registrar is going to do their due diligence to make sure you are a United States citizen. And once they do their due diligence and verify that you're a citizen, then you get your voter registration card in the mail. You're now on the voter rolls, right? That's how the process goes. I know because I used to work for elections. So, some arguments for those in favor of this proposition are concerned that some states allow non-citizens to vote in local elections. This amendment would prevent Texas counties and cities from allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections. Adding this amendment to the Constitution would make it more difficult to change in the future. So that's arguments for. Arguments against: this amendment is unnecessary because non-citizen voting is extremely rare and already illegal in Texas. Citizenship is already required for voter registration and is verified by state and local procedures. So those are some of the merits of the argument there. I'll let you decide on your own how you feel about them. But we wanted to go ahead and just kind of go through this language and go through some of these pages with you so you know what you're looking at before you take it home. My dad is sitting right here on this front row. He calls me every single election and asks me, Bryce, who are these judges, right? Because y'all already know Harris County, we got 1 million judges when it's time to vote, right? So what I always do with my pops, I say, hey Dad, I got a voter guide for you. You can flip through, learn a little bit about these judges and figure out who you want to vote for. So I feel it's the same way with these propositions, right? Informed voters are powerful voters. And with that being said, elections like this that are in non-presidential years, we typically see significantly lower voter turnout. I'm talking less than 10%, right? So for those of you in this room that will be turning out to vote, your vote is weighted way more heavily than it would be in a presidential election, right? So I want you to view yourselves and your neighborhood and your neighbors as a voting block, right? Y'all have the power to swing elections in this state and in this county. So we really want everybody to use their power and to use their agency to decide who is going to represent them, who is going to govern them, and not only who, but also how they will be governed as well too. So we want y'all to take that with you. And then lastly, here are a few additional resources. We have 866-OUR-VOTE. We also have De y Vota for Spanish speakers. And then we also have 888-API-VOTE. You have English, Mandarin, Cantonese, Korean, Vietnamese, and so on here, and a host of others. So we please ask that you take a picture of this, post it on your social media. Even if you're not an English speaker, you might have some friends on social media who are, right? And those friends might have family members who are. So we highly recommend that you share this information with your friends, your colleagues, and your neighbors. And for anybody that's here who had somebody that they tried to get with them to come, right? But they couldn't get them out. Please share this information as well, too. Take an extra voter guide, give it to your neighbor, drag them with you to the polls, right? Because our democracy is only as strong as the people who have the conviction to protect it, right? It's a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. So, with that being said, that is the end of our presentation. And I always like to end events like this. I always like to end events like this with a story. And this is a story that I read about a 92-year-old woman. Well, in 2013, she was 92. A 92-year-old woman named Rosanelle Eaton, who protested North Carolina's voter suppression laws. I read this in a book called Give Us the Vote. I think it's a really powerful story about civic engagement, and not just civic engagement, but what it means to be somebody who cares about your community, and also what it means to take action in the face of despair, right? Because what we were taught is that the remedy to despair is action. So I wanted to tell her story before I leave y'all today. So Rosanelle Eaton, she was born in Franklin County, outside of Raleigh, and she was the youngest of 8 children. Her father was the only black man to own a farm in the area, and he died after a mule accident on Christmas Eve one night. Afterwards, the landlord ripped off her mother, and the family lost their land. And that was the day that Rosanelle decided that she wanted to be independent. When she turned 21, which, by the way, this was in 1942, when she turned 21, she told her mother she wanted to register to vote, which was nearly unthinkable at the time for black Americans, right? This is 1942. This is Jim Crow era United States. She wanted to help get people registered to vote, right? That was her goal. She said, Mom, I want to help people get registered to vote, so I want to go down there and get myself registered. So they rode a mule-pulled wagon 7 miles to the county seat of Louisburg, where 3 white male registrars were sitting in the courthouse. One of the men asked her, "What can I do for you, little lady?" Mind you, this woman was 21 years old. He said, "What can I do for you, little lady?" And she said, "I came down here to see if I can register to vote." And the registrar said, "Stand up straight, look straight ahead, put your arms by your side, and recite the preamble to the Constitution." And she did so, flawlessly. Next thing they had her do, they had her take a literacy test. She passed the literacy test. And after she had completed those requirements, one of those men said to her mother, "Ma'am, you ought to be proud of this little lady." She was one of the first black registered voters in Franklin County, and later became one of 40 North Carolina counties that were covered under Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. She casted her first ballot in 1944 for FDR. She also joined the Civil Rights Movement and registered voters under the SCLC and NAACP. She marched from Selma to Montgomery, and she also watched LBJ sign the VRA. But her efforts did not go unnoticed. A cross was burned on her lawn. Shots were fired at her house, just for registering people to vote in her community. She was a 3rd grade teacher and a librarian. I want to make it clear, she was nobody's president. She wasn't the leader of an organization. She didn't hold an executive committee position. She was just a woman who cared. She carried voter registration forms everywhere she went and personally registered over 4,000 people before she lost count. So they didn't end at 4,000. She just lost count after 4,000 people. She was awarded alongside John Lewis and Rosa Parks with the Invisible Giants Award from the National Voting Rights Museum. And in 2013, June 24, 2013, at the age of 92, she protested North Carolina's voter suppression laws, and she was arrested with 120 others. And this was a day before the Shelby v. Holder decision. And she was quoted saying, "It was very exciting. It was worth going to jail to speak out. I had never been in trouble in my life, had never even gotten a ticket." And she said it was exciting and it was worth it to speak out against these voter suppression laws. Now, unfortunately, the next day, the Shelby v. Holder decision was passed down, which, of course, as we know, created the world that we see here today with all of these voter suppression laws across the nation, right? And we've been in a fight ever since 2013 to combat those. I wanted to tell Ms. Eden's story because it's really inspiring to me because she was not somebody who needed a title, right? She was not somebody who wanted to run for office. She didn't need to be anybody's president, executive director, start a 501c3. She was just a VDVR. She got registered to vote, learned the information, became a VDVR, and started registering everybody that she knew, right? And that's the type of impact, and look at the impact that she had on her community. And then she never stopped at 92 years old. 92. She was out there protesting against voter suppression laws. So I wanted to tell her story because that's all it takes, right? To build power within our communities, to uplift other people and create leaders within our community. All it takes is somebody who cares, right? It always just starts with one person who said, you know what, this is wrong, and I want to do something about it. And they knock on somebody's door and say, hey, did you know about this? And that person says, shoot, I didn't know about that. And that person knocks on another door. They text somebody, they call somebody, and that's how we build power within our community, right? I always tell folks the first step to building power is building community, right? And that's what we're doing here in this room right now. That's what I hope that we continue to do moving forward. And we're in a time right now in America where we need community, right? We need community more than anything else right now. We're heading into very difficult times, and they won't get easier. And in order to move past these times, in order to conquer the forces that wish to suppress our vote and dilute our power, we have to stand together. We have to have conversations. We got to get in the same rooms with each other, and we got to get out of our circles, right? So I want to thank y'all for being here today because that is what that means. And then I also want to leave with y'all, if you're registered to vote, try to take the next step and become a VDVR, right? Talk to the tax office. They're in charge of voter registration. They help people get trained to become VDVRs. A VDVR is a volunteer deputy voter registrar. Thank you, Ms. Charlene. A VDVR, and Charlene Jones right here, she's a VDVR herself and one of the best in the county. Yes, ma'am, we got more. Raise your hand if you're a VDVR. Raise your hand if you're a VDVR. If you're interested in becoming a VDVR, talk to these people who got their hands raised. So with that being said, I want to thank y'all for coming out. Please continue to come to our program, and please continue to invite us to your program. And we want to make sure that we continue to bridge that gap between community and government because we're part of your communities as well too. Some of us probably only live a few miles up the road from you. So thank you for coming out today. To yours, in power and solidarity, on behalf of the Office of Commissioner Rodney Ellis, I hope you have a great night and get home safely. Thank you.